If you had told first year of teaching me that I didn't do these things, I would have been shocked. I would have never believed you. My name is Megan. I have been an ESL teacher in China for the past 10 years. I'm also getting my PhD in education. Welcome to Teacher Talk, where we just sit and talk about all things teaching. I was thinking the other day about how different I am now after 10 years of teaching compared to my first year, and I realized there are so many things that I was explicitly told to do and I followed to the letter that there's no way I would do now. Like, you could not pay me to do these things. And all of the things, except for the last one, were things I was explicitly told to do as advice from other teachers. So here are the 10 things I absolutely refuse to do as an ESL teacher. Number one is always assign homework, just giving homework for homework's sake. I was told that if you want your students to take your class seriously, you always need to give them homework, and I just don't believe that's true. I would much rather be strategic with my homework assignments. I don't want to just give them busy work. That's stupid. I want my students to be handed an assignment and respect the assignment. I want them to understand that this assignment has value for them. I don't want to be giving out homework just for homework's sake. If I consistently give out homework that just feels like busy work, the students are going to care about it less and less and less. So I'm super strategic with my homework. I will only give a homework assignment if I can really be confident that it's super useful for the students and it's going to be beneficial for them. Also, there's the fun of just sometimes not assigning homework and giving them a little bit of a break. Number two is I don't always have my students come up to present their work. And really, if you had told me this my first year of teaching, I truly would have been so shocked, because this was the core part of all of my lessons. I would have students work together to create a conversation or create a dialogue, and then I would choose a couple of groups to come up and present their dialogue for the whole class. I don't do that anymore. Now, it definitely has a time and place, but it's not something that I absolutely am going to do in every single class. I was told you need to do this in order for students to take the assignment seriously. They have to have the fear of presenting in front of a class in order for them to actually practice it. I haven't really found that to be the case, and I find that there's a lot of wasted time as well. Students are often a little bit hesitant to come to the front as well. They're a little bit shy. So I would find myself wasting a lot of time in selecting the group and encouraging them to come up and say, come on, it's okay, you can do it. Then there's the actual time it takes them to stand up, to grab their pens, to grab their papers, to move to the front of the room, to get ready, to look at each other, to start. And also, while one group is up there presenting, you as the teacher have to be paying attention to that group, but then you also have to be monitoring the class and make sure the class is paying attention. And let's be honest, half the time, the students in the audience are not really paying that close attention to the presentations, especially if you're doing this every single class. It just becomes like a boring, repetitive habit. I find it's so much better to give the students an assignment. They still have to create a dialogue, they still have to create an assignment, but instead of having them come up to the front of the room to present, I will just have them work on it together. And if I'm walking around the room and if I'm being good with classroom management, the students aren't slacking off, they're still doing the work. And it saves a lot of time as well, because during that time, only 2 students are able to speak and practice their English, compared to having all of the groups practicing together, creating the dialogue together. If you want, you could even make this on a smaller scale, that you have, these 2 students share their conversation with these 2 students. And so you have multiple groups throughout the room who are practicing English all at the same time, rather than just having only 2 students at the front of the room speaking and nobody else is actually practicing their spoken English. Number 3, this might be a weird one, but I don't use the microphone. In my classes, which are rather big classes, we have about 30 to 40 students. A lot of the Chinese teachers will use a microphone, and I just personally don't like it. I don't like how it distorts my voice. I feel like it's already difficult enough for students to understand a native speaker, understand the accent, understand the flow. And I also don't like that it puts a bit of a distance between the students and me. It's hard to explain, but I just feel like the relationships and the rapport go so much better when I'm just talking to them without a microphone. Number 4, and this one was one that I always got this advice, was to ban phones or take phones away. So if you had students who were using their phone, you needed to immediately be on them. You needed to go up and you needed to take their phone away. No phones in class. I absolutely do not do that now. At the beginning of every semester, I tell the students that they're allowed to use their phones, and I want them to use their phones because I only have my students once a week. That's not enough time, to be honest. And phones are not evil. Phones can be used for good and phones can be used for bad. They're a tool. So I tell the students that they can use their phones in my class, but they should use their phones to help them learn English, not stop them from learning English. I should also add that I teach university students. So this is a little bit of a different situation. If you're teaching in a kindergarten or an elementary school, that's another story. My students are adults. I tell them that they can choose how they want to spend their class time. If they really work hard during the class time, their English is going to improve a lot. They should use their phone to help them learn rather than distract them from learning. Also, when people said things like take their phones away from them, I would try it, but it just never felt aligned with who I was as a person and what my style of teaching was, and I didn't even understand it at the time. Now I understand so much better that teaching is not just a science. Teaching is an art, and what works for you might not work for me. What works for your classroom might not work for my classroom. You have to find your own style of teaching, and for me, being super strict and taking away their phones, and it just never felt like me. I constantly felt like I was bluffing because in the back of my mind, I said, I don't think this really matters. And it's hard to enforce a rule that you yourself don't truly believe in. So if I could give advice to teachers who are starting out, it's to take some time to figure out who you are as a teacher. What type of teacher are you? What do you want to emphasize? What do you want to focus on? What's important to you and what's going to work well for your class? Don't just take any advice, including mine, as gospel. Take everything with a grain of salt and find out what works for you, your classroom, and your style. The 5th thing I don't tell my teachers this. I don't plan things down to the exact minute. When I was studying in college and when I had to make lesson plans and submit them, my teachers were so intense about planning everything out to the exact minute. The warm-up is going to be 3 minutes long, and then the vocabulary will be 5 minutes long. Everything was so perfectly organized. Are you kidding? I don't know a single teacher who actually does that. When you're first starting out, it can be good to think about time and be aware of time, but no, I don't plan all of that out to the last minute because I want to have flexibility in my classes. And this really tripped me up when I was a first-year teacher. The 6th thing I don't do, which goes along with this, is I don't tell students how much time they have to complete an assignment. And this one might sound really strange, but I was told constantly that you need to tell the students how much time they have. You have 3 minutes to search these words. You have 4 minutes to discuss with your partner. And I just thought that's what everybody did and that's what you're supposed to do. But I really struggled with this during my first year of teaching because I just didn't understand how the class time worked, and I didn't understand what was important in the class time as well. So I would tell the students, you have 4 minutes to make a conversation with your partner about this topic or this discussion. And what would happen sometimes is that we would reach the 4-minute mark and they would still be talking and they would still be enjoying it and they would still be discussing, but I felt like I had to cut them off because I told them that there's only 4 minutes, and vice versa. I would tell the students you had 4 minutes to create a discussion, but after 2 minutes, they were done. And sometimes that was because of the students, but most of the time it was because I hadn't chosen a deep enough topic that they could genuinely talk about for 4 minutes. Most of them, we're done after 2. There was nothing really more to say and nothing really more to talk about. But because I told the students you had to talk for 4 minutes, I was standing there at the front being like, come on guys, keep talking. And I just didn't understand how flexibility can be such a valuable tool in the classroom. And let's be honest, students are not paying attention to this. When you say you have 3 minutes to complete the assignment, students aren't out there with their stopwatches going 3 minutes. I mean, the teacher said we had 3 minutes, but she gave us 2 minutes 30 seconds or 3 minutes 30 seconds. That doesn't happen. So I just don't do it. Instead, I just tell the students, chat with your partner. I tell the students, I will give you a few minutes to discuss. Students don't seem to notice. They don't seem to care that I didn't give them an exact time. And it allows for so much flexibility. If students really genuinely seem to have exhausted the topic, then we stop and we move on to something else. I don't want to waste my class time. But if students are really into it and they're really enjoying the conversation, why would I cut them off? The point of an English class is for them to be using English. Why would I cut them off when they're actually using the language and doing a great job? The 7th thing I don't do is refuse late work. I was told that in order to be taken seriously as a teacher, you need to be strict. You need to be harsh. If a student forgets to do their homework or forgets to bring their homework, then sorry, next time they'll be sure to remember it if you're really strict with them. But that's not really how life works. Sometimes you're busy and you do just forget. Sometimes you bring the wrong book. Sometimes you bring the wrong notebook. I don't really see the point of punishing my students when they make a simple mistake. Again, my students are university students, so they already know how to be students, how to operate in a classroom, but things happen, accidents happen. And so I allow students to submit work late. I take off a couple of points because there are of course consequences, but the point of my class and the point of homework is for students to practice their English. So why would I punish them and take away an opportunity for them to practice their English? Number 8, and this might be controversial, is I don't call roll. I abhor calling roll. You will not catch me calling roll. I hate it so much. When I was a student, I hated it. When I became a teacher, I hated it even more. I don't call roll. Now, if you're wondering what I do instead, I have an entire video on how I take attendance and keep up with my attendance. I can link it in the cards, but I don't call roll. I hate it. I think it is such a waste of time for me to roll through 30 or 40 names every single lesson. I also hate it. I hate standing at the front and saying, John, Judy, Grace, and they go here, present, here. I hate that. I also think it's such a waste of energy. I don't know about for you, but for my classes, when they come into the class after their break or from their last class, energy is high. They're talking with their friends, they're chatting, they're sitting down. They have high energy. When you start the class and say, good morning, okay, let's call roll. John, Judy, it takes the energy level from here and brings it all the way down to here. And I don't want to do that. Instead, I want to take their energy level and I want to jump directly into our activities, jump into our warm-up, jump into the topic for the lesson. Number 9 is I don't make super complex PowerPoints. When I first started teaching, I felt like I wasn't very good at making PowerPoints, and I would always look at other people's PowerPoints and I felt like, oh, I should make them really fancy. I should add all of these animations. I should like switch up the slides all the time. I should add all these details. And I make my PowerPoints visually interesting. I like to add pictures. I like to play with different colors because I want to grab students' attention, but I don't go really complex for them because I want students to not focus on the PowerPoint as much. I want them to focus on me more. I found that when I started to make really crazy, complex PowerPoints with lots of animations and things like that, students were looking at the PowerPoint more than they were looking at me. I don't want to improve their reading skills. I want to improve their listening skills. That's usually what my students struggle with more. So anything I can do to push the students' attention towards me, what I'm saying, the words that I'm saying and what I'm describing instead of the PowerPoint, I do. Okay, and for number 10, I know this one sounds so weird, but you will not catch me in a classroom with closed curtains? Absolutely not. Under no circumstances. Curtains are always open in my classroom. I thought it was just me. I thought I was going crazy, but I started to notice one semester that when the curtains were closed, I felt like my students were just doing a worse job. I felt like they had trouble focusing. Their behavior management was just off. But when the curtains were open, I just felt like they were better students and they were a better class. And so I took an entire semester one year to test this. And I found out from my own experience that students just seemed to do better with the curtains open. So much so that I did some research on it. It has been scientifically proven. Students, humans, study better, focus better, have better management, classroom management when they have exposure to nature. So natural sunlight, a chance to view blue sky, a chance to view green trees, things like that. It is scientifically proven that students perform better with access to nature. And so this is a hill that I die on. All of my students, when they come into the class, they close all the curtains and turn on all the artificial lights. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. We're gonna open up all the curtains. And I am a stickler for this. It's a weird one. This is the one that I never got any advice about, but it's one that I will hold to today and I will die on that hill. No closed curtains in my class. And those are the 10 things that I absolutely refuse to do as an ESL teacher. I know this video was kind of random, but I feel like these are the small things that I was really nervous about or I was looking for when I first became a teacher. There were just so many little things I didn't really know how to handle or what to do. So maybe this gave you some ideas for things you can try in your own classroom, or at least a different perspective. I hope this gave you some ideas. If you have any suggestions of your own, you can definitely leave them in the comments down below. Leave them for other teachers. If you'd like to watch more videos about, tips and tricks about teaching or what it's like being a teacher in China, balancing PhD and teaching and living abroad, you can definitely subscribe, watch the other videos. You can also check out the website, atlasteachingesl.com, for more tips and ideas. And I think that's all for today. Thank you for joining me on this rainy, cozy day, and I will see you next time. Bye.